Hi, everybody. It's dawned on me that I've let me start all over. Hi, everybody. It's dawned on me that I've never formally thanked you, the faithful listeners of this show. So I want to do that now. Thank you for listening. I'm sincerely humbled that so many of you regularly tune in. Truth be told, I'm not very comfortable at sharing success, but we've got some pretty cool things happening here. Did you know this show has become more than just a podcast? We've become a global community. I recently discovered that this podcast is rated in the top 10% of podcasts globally by Listen Notes. And according to FeedSpot, we hold the title of the top rated podcast for youth workers. Our show has reached 100 different countries across all continents. I never dreamt we would have this reach or impact when we first came up with the idea. This podcast is really a YIPA team effort, and we have no plans to stop soon or rest on our success. Please help us spread the word about the Passionate Youth Worker podcast. Share it with your coworkers, friends, or family members, or just anyone who cares about our young people. It would mean the world to me, and it will help our young people too, which is what brings us all together, anyways. Okay, enough with that. On to the episode. Today, we're in for an inspiring conversation featuring the incredible Rosalind Loggin from Minnesota here in the United States. Renowned for her remarkable ability to connect with even the toughest young people, Rosalind attributes her gift to a higher power. In a remarkably candid manner, she'll open up about the challenging journey she's faced, turning adversity into strength. Through numerous traumatic experiences, Rosalind remains resilient and her unwavering spirit shines through. Affectionately known as the Boss Lady, she radiates charisma and leadership. As you listen to Rosalind's story, you'll discover how she views life's hardships not as obstacles, but as transformative milestones that have shaped the empowered, compassionate youth worker she is today. Are you ready for an uplifting conversation that proves resilience, faith, and a positive mindset can triumph over any adversity? I know I am, and I'm excited to get going. But just a quick trigger warning. Some of the things we'll discuss today may be difficult for some of you to hear. So please keep that in mind, and please take care of yourself. Rosalind, thank you for joining us on the Passionate Youth Worker podcast.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
We have so much to cover in such a very short time. So I'm going to cut right to the chase. Rosalind, what was your childhood like? What are some of your early memories?
Some of my early memories were how my work began with youth. It was me taking care of my younger brother who has epilepsy, seizures, and hypertension and different things like that. And it's during the time that I was caring for him, it seemed like it was like I was kind of like pissed, like my mom make me watch this kid, but then it grew into a passion because I've seen that a lot of people didn't have patience to deal with children who had certain disabilities and seizures and different things like that, and so that's where my journey began.
Yeah. And so that connection with your brother certainly started the shaping of your care and concern for other people, and maybe some of the other people that have it less off as good as you do. What
Yes.
were your parents like? Were you raised with your mom and dad and siblings, or?
I was raised with my mom and my dad was were together when in our earlier years, but my dad he stayed in my life. But my mom, she divorced my father, and it was my stepdad, and so me and my brothers and sisters we had a lot of challenges. Like we were, like my dad was a firm father. He was from Mississippi, and so he was really firm, and so we it was like if he said something, we kind of like jumped. But the things that I know now, as looking back over those times, he child reared us in the way that he knew how to rear us. But then when when my mother left my father, she met my stepdad, and that was not a pretty sight.
Yeah. What was that situation like? What was the
It
deal
was
with
like,
your
a
stepdad?
childhood molestation, my stepfather started messing with, messing with me sexually. And I started running away as a teen. And so, until I met it seemed like I just went from one form of abuse to the next. It's like I went from, um, trauma in the home and then trauma in relationships. My older two children's father was very abusive, and he came from, a family with drug and alcohol and different things like that. I ran away with him and I got pregnant. And so I got pregnant at 15 and I had my daughter at 16. So it was just like from one, I feel like I was robbed out of my childhood. So I'm help raising my little brother, and then to have a stepfather, mess with me, and then to have our my father, mother, and father, our home dysregulated. And so it was just I feel like it just spiraled downward.
Yeah. And somehow here you are today helping other people experiencing the same thing. How old were you when all this started? I mean, were you just in your early childhood or teenage years or?
When my little brother and I, he's 10 years older than me. My mom was in the hospital having my brother. My stepfather was taking my virginity. So about 10.
Oh man.
So kind of young.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And what did at that time, I can't imagine what that was like. And first of all, I'm sorry that that happened to you.
Thank you.
What were you thinking? What were you, was it just bitterness and anger or confusion or sorrow? What?
I think it was a combination of all of it. Where my as I stated, my stepfather started molesting me around about the age of 10. But if as far as back I can remember, I have had a stepbrother who had did some things to me when I was even younger than that. So when you deal with trauma and different things like that, I kind of like disassociate, and so I kind of like
Yeah,
block it. And so it's like it be things that you don't want to remember. So, like, okay, like, is this normal? And I think some of the things that I experienced then, it still affect me in my life today, if that makes sense. And so it's just like, so I call it triggers and trauma and triggers, so it's certain things that, like when I walk back into like an unfamiliar place, I mean, like, I cringe. And so, but me now at the age of 51 and learning how to, to get the help that I need for myself in therapy and where I can to other people, like we didn't cause these things to happen to us. And so, like it is help out there. And so, but I've learned over the years to really clearly set boundaries.
yeah. Well, good for you. And I got to imagine it's taken a lot of strength to get to where you are today.
Yes.
Some of the things you've gone through clearly would cripple a lot of people and make it really difficult, or they would be angry or abusive themselves or engaged in some sort of self harm behavior because they just didn't cope with it. Somehow
Yes.
you figured out how to do it. At what point in your life were you able to maybe come to the understanding that I have to get away or I have to start thinking differently about this? Otherwise, it's not going to turn out very good for me.
Well, I'm a dreamer. I dream. God bless us all with different gifts, and so I dream.
Sure.
And so, I had a dream that a guy that I was dealing with here, that I was dating, I had a dream that he had messed with my son. And in reality, he had messed with my daughter. And
Mm,
it scared him, but it's like I was just like not really understanding, like at the age of, because I think I was like 20, I want to say 21. I had a nervous breakdown. I did have a breakdown.
hmm.
So it's like when you relive certain things, it's like, oh my God, so you really don't know how to handle those things. And so the way I handle it now, like I say, have been very protective of my children, like since day one. I didn't have a lot of different people around my children. If people did come around my children, my kids used to say that I was mean, but now that I look back over it, I know why. I'm like, I'm protecting them from other people from
Sure.
hurting them. And so, but I had to learn better skills in doing that as well.
Yeah.
And
So
so, yes.
when you had this dream and you realize that something bad has happened to your daughter, what is that the point where you sought out help and started to figure out I need a better way to cope with this so that I can get past this really tough time that I'm going through?
That was the beginning, because I'm like doing it. Like I said, I had a breakdown, and then I met my second set of children's father, and
Hmm.
and I got saved. I started going to church, and so I
Oh,
think with the help of God, I think that's what really just like kind of like turned my life around. And but we still had, like it was still different traumas, but not to the extent, So I just kept my children away from dangerous situations where I thought, as far as me thinking it, but I've ran my own daycare for 11 years, and so
yeah,
it sometimes things slip in, and so but I was just very cautious, like just not allowing certain things to, even when it came down to I call it my daycare babies. When it came down to my daycare babies, I'm like, no, like no, it was certain things that I didn't tolerate. You're not gonna do this, and so even my daycare babies thought I was mean. But now looking back, where some of them were in their middle 20s and they still call me my nickname is Sue, Miss Sue. When you was young, I just thought you was the meanest lady, but now I get it. So all of them calling me like asking for help and information because they see that I really care. Because I'm like, no, and I gave it to them in the raw. I didn't hide nothing from them. Like like no, like if you don't do this, this, or that, you're just gonna be stuck with a baby. And those are the type of words that my mom told to me. So if you taught a certain way, you gonna deliver it a certain way. And so but now lately, I'm trying to really learn how to consider my audience because everybody can't take that directness, and so, but yeah, but they weren't
yeah.
real. And so, they come back and like the way you told me, they was like, I couldn't understand it now, but the way you told me now that I'm older, I understand what you was trying to tell me.
Yeah, you're full of charisma, and I can imagine you say it the way it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what our young people need to hear, especially our young people that maybe aren't making great choices, right?
Yes.
They need to have a dose of reality to set in about what might happen if they don't change. I think it's really interesting that you were so focused with your brother and his epilepsy and really cared for him, and then you started a daycare. And my understanding when we got to know each other a little bit, you said these were some tough kids that you brought into your
Oh my
daycare.
God, they were what you would call the throwaway kids. No daycare centers want them,
Yeah,
and and I took them, and I had the patience with them. And so, like I say, a lot of their parents still call me right now to this day, like Miss Sue, can you come help me with such and such? If he call you, don't answer, because he need to learn this way and he need to learn that way. And so a lot of my family still are in connection with me.
that is really special. What do you think gave you that strength, despite all the things you're coping with yourself and just trying to deal with the difficulties we face? And there's more that we haven't even talked about, but what gives you the foresight to think my answer to helping all this is to give back to other people? Because that's what you did. That and it seems like it's given you strength somehow.
It gives me strength, and it also gives me joy. I did not know that. I did not know that. I was a caregiver, enabler, and different things like that. Because that's what a lot of people say. No, you shouldn't help this person. You shouldn't help that person. But for a person that don't feel, for some people that who feel like that they don't have nobody, and I can get on their level and understand them and overlook their challenges and not judge them. I think, by me being my true authentic self, that's how they're, open to coming like, let me call Miss Rosalind, because I know she got the answer for me. I'm not going to judge you because I know that we all come from different walks of life and different stages and different things like that. And people will like people that's going to be real with them. Although, like every people already know that they're making a mistake, when they're making that mistake. And so we don't need people to remind us of that. And a lot of times we do that.
Good point and well said. Believe it or not, we have to take a short break. But when we come back, I want to start asking you how all these things in your life have influenced who you are today. So we'll be right back in just a minute. Rosalind, right before the break, I hinted that I'd like to talk to you about these experiences that you've gone through. What big lesson have you learned from all this? There must be some underlining theme that you've learned along the way. Is there something like that?
I believe that it's beauty for ashes, it's beauty for ashes. And I believe also that the things that I went through in my life, I had to go through in order for me to help somebody else. And I believe that it was just a life lesson. And no, it wasn't fair. It isn't fair. But I believe that, like if you could take that negative and take it into a positive so that you could at least just pull one person out of a rut, it'll make the world a much better place.
So those experiences make you who you are today. And I think you like yourself. It sounds like you're very happy and content with who you are as a person. That seems to come through pretty clear. Do you wish life would have been different, or are you content because it's made you who you are? I'm just wondering that big, deep question.
It's it could that could be a challenging question. It's a combination of both. Like sometimes I don't understand, why certain things happen, but then I also understand, like like God chose me. I feel like many are called, but only a few are chosen, and a lot of people couldn't go through the things that I went through. So I believe that I was just considered.
Yeah, it's kind of like your calling to do this, right? And it was the purpose that you have to go through. What do you
Yes,
think your purpose is in life? Can you put like a phrase or put that into words in some sort of capacity?
I think my purpose is to pull people out of dark places.
Hmm, that's cool. Can you say more about that? That's really cool.
I believe like a lot of times.
Oh, Rosalind, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. A lot of times people deal with depression and sometimes they stay in it because they think it's their fault when it's really not their fault. And if you can just, like, because outsiders looking in, like we both look normal today, yeah, but don't nobody know what goes on behind closed doors. And so, and a lot of times people just come up and they start a conversation and be like, "Oh my God, God sent you to me. It was meant for me to meet you. I'm going through this or I'm going through that." And so I just believe that your gifts make room for you. He'll send the people that you need to serve and witness to, and the people that you need to help. And so, my goal is like I'm working in a school now, and it's like, oh my God, it's like this young guy, whether it's female or male, and it's like, oh my God, I just see he's going through like the foster care system and different things like that, and I'm like, oh my God, he's a hurting vessel, and so a lot of people push him away when he's crying out, and so it's like, like, how can we say we really here helping people if we're scared of them, or if we shun them or put them down and different things? Like, how can we help them?
That's the thing that I think about you the most. You've gone through so much that nothing probably, well, I say this kind of lightly, but you're probably able to handle a lot because you've been through a lot. And so you're
Yes,
willing to work with the young people that maybe seem so difficult and behaviorally challenging, but you're able to look past that and go, this young person just screaming for help. And how do
yes.
I go about connecting with them? Is that right? Am I seeing that correctly?
It is because I was talking to my sister and I was sharing about my student that I'm working with. And she was like, "Yo, you better watch it." And I was like, "No." I said, "No." I said, I believe I was sent there to help him, but because so many people reject him. And one thing about a person, if they're already going through different things and people are rejecting them, they are going to lash out to see how long you're going to be consistent and stick it out with them. And so I'm like, he tried me today. It was a challenge, and I'm like, I said, okay, but I gotta go back. I'll go back until I know that my assignment is over. Because I believe
Hmm.
I'm sent on assignments.
That's cool. How do you know, Rosalind? How can you tell when you've made a connection with a young person? When you've cracked through that hard exterior and you go, this young person is trusting me and is going to listen to me?
When they start opening up, and sharing, the deepest dark secrets in their life, they can open up, like, some of the students tell me about their moms, and they don't have that relationship, or some of them tell me that, like they're in abusive relationships, and so I think, and then I can lead them, or lead them to where it is that they need to be. Because some of the situations I can't fix, and some of them I won't even try to. If I know I can't fix them, I'll recommend it to somebody else that can fix them. or get them the help that they need.
You know, this boss lady kind of title that some of the people call you, that is exactly what some of our toughest young people need, right? They need somebody who's going to hang in there and maybe, uh, be more straightforward and to the point and stick with them. And I think you're so good at that. Do you find like some subset of young people really just are, kind of attracted to your style of dealing with young
I
people?
think they're attracted to my style. I think once they get to know me and know that it's genuine, that's when they like, oh, I can open up with her, because I know she's good, even because it's not much. They'll try to pull it over on me, and it's not that I don't see it, but I'm like, like I'm just like, like I usually say been there, been there, done that, So I'm like, how is it that I've already been there? You trying to tell me how to do it when I've already done that? And so I just, go along with them, and then I just unleash on them. Like, no, this is not how we're gonna do this thing. Like you need to do A, B, C, D, or E.
Do you think a lot of your life experiences has shaped you to have that skill set?
Yes, yes. Like I say, I bet pretty much basically was a mother at 10. And then I became with my little brother, and then I had, because even with my brothers and sisters, I
Yeah.
pretty much, okay, like, no, they used to call me Mama Sue. My nickname is Sue, and so Mama Sue. And so then when I had my baby at 15, everything just stopped. I don't get the chance to party. I don't get the chance to do none of those things. And those are the things that my mom told me: you gonna take care of that baby. You laid down and you had that baby, you gonna take care of that baby. And I did just that.
Yeah. What was that like being a young teenage mother? Did you find joy and happiness in it, or did it seem like something you wish
I
wouldn't have happened, or
I
both of
love
those
being a
things?
mom. The way, I mean, I didn't really have contact with my oldest children's father, and so I I was a single mom. I was in that went from one broken relationship to the next. And so it's like, oh my goodness, I'm like, and so even like now, I'm like, okay, I'm scared to date because can nobody relate, and so where it's not that I'm aggressive, but I'm just, very assertive. I'm just not going to accept anything. I'm not going to say, I was married 15 years to my ex-husband, and he was an alcoholic. My kid's mother passed away, and so I raised them. It's like, it was just things that I was not going to allow my children to go through. And the children who came across my path, if they was on my watch, I was not going to allow them to go through it neither.
You've shared a lot of the experiences you had as a young person, and even as an adult, you've gone through a lot. What do you think the biggest challenge in your life has been, and how has that shaped who you are today?
One of my biggest challenges, is when we had our initial interview, I mentioned how my son stabbed my daughter 9 times, almost killed her.
Hmm.
He was on PCP
Mm-hmm.
and dealing with mental health challenges. My daughter had to have a feeding tube, a trach, and plastic surgery. And during that time, I was just like, I couldn't understand. I'm just like, and I get teary eyed because I'm like, oh my God, these are both my children. Like, how do I, how do I, how do I separate the two? And so it was this guy. I'm a security officer. It was this guy that came onto my post one day. He said he was a deacon at a church, and he asked me. No, I asked him. I said, it's something that I really just cannot understand. I said, I don't know why my son stabbed my daughter. And then he said, this is what made me just kind of like find peace with the situation. He said, your daughter's going to live and your son is going to get the help that he needs. My son got 20 years in prison and my daughter's living. So as long as they still have breath in their body, we all still have a chance to get it right. And so that was one of that was just one of my hardest challenges that I have had to face as a mother.
Yeah. I I think about your life, and to be honest with you, I'm absolutely enthralled with how well you've been able to cope with some of that stuff and what a strong person you are. And the fact that you give back to other people in the way that you do and in the manner you do is just impressive. And so I don't know. I just was wondering, is there anything else as we kind of come to the end that I should have asked you that I didn't, that you would like the listeners to know?
I just know that we all, we all go through our trials and tribulations, and that if we when we can learn how to forgive others and forgive ourselves for allowing certain things to transpire, like we 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 show I show so many people so much grace, but sometimes I don't show myself that. And so
Mm,
I'm learning how to be kind to myself. And so I think when we learn how to be kind to ourselves, we can overcome any obstacle and challenges because God is a forgiving God, and so I just feel like that, like certain things happen so that we can learn how to forgive and move on. It's not to say that we should always embrace or invite, our accusers in. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like to be free within ourselves, so that we can be free to do the job that God called us to do, because this is a job. And I always say the Bible is a scripture in the Bible. It says that the labor is plentiful, but the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. It's only a
mm,
few of us out here that's really trying to do a good job. People, sometimes people, a lot of times you find people in this field of work, just so that they can make money. But if you really do not have the heart, I say, like, don't mess somebody else's life up, because you have to have a compassion and have a heart to do this type of work. And it's
yeah,
challenging and rewarding.
without question. I'm a firm believer that our life experiences define who we are and it defines how we support our young people. I don't think we can separate the people we've been with, the experiences we have, and the way we support young people. We have to bring that into our work with young people
Mhm.
and take what we've learned along the way and help shape that life of a young person in a way that is going to help them grow into the person that they ought to be. And I think that it takes all different kinds of people to do this work. It takes some people to be straightforward and bold and to be confrontive of young people, and it takes more empathetic, soft people for other young people.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, I am just grateful that you did all the work you did for young people in the past, and I know what you're going to do for them going forward. And I just
Yes.
am truly feel blessed that you told the story to our audience because they now can see that no matter what life throws at you, you can overcome it. It's
Yes.
possible. You're proven a living legend of being able to overcome what life throws at you. So thank you for the work you've done and thank you for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you.
Rosalind, before we go, I always like to give the guest the last word. So, what words of wisdom or inspiration would you like to leave with our listeners today?
Um, just continue on the path, continue on the path, and just if it's certain things that you don't understand, just ask God to be your, or whoever your higher power is, to be your guide, and just stay on the path. Don't give up.